don't know if he comes across as being sincere, because a lot of people, like what people are saying now, is they feel the government has a responsibility. I don't know about that. I feel INEC has a responsibility to have held this election when it was due, because all along the INEC chairman has been saying that they are ready. I was not one of those people who predicted that the elections would be postponed. I did believe that it could be, but not strongly. I just felt there was no other reason, because the INEC chairman, Mahmoud, had come out to say several times that he had all he needed to conduct the elections, and INEC was very ready, specifically saying they would not postpone the elections. So I think Buhari is just echoing what is happening, what people are thinking, and there's nothing special he's adding.
He's called for calm and expected
he's
that
called for
INEC
calm. He said everybody should just be peaceful, and let's wait for further information. He said, of course, he's in Daura and he's going to Abuja. INEC they want to have a meeting generally. So he hasn't given us any new information, but then I just think it's basic information that how everybody is feeling right now about the postponement.
Yeah, now you're the one with the crystal ball this time around. Do you think we would have the elections as well holding on February 23 and March 9, looking at INEC saying, well, we have an extension of 5 more days to go to prepare, get our acts in order. Yes, they've accepted the blame that they didn't do the needful to have the election on the 16th, that's today. But come February 23, they are going to have all of that done. And what do you also expect from today's broadcast from INEC?
What I would expect INEC is to come on to TV and talk to us as co-heirs in this democracy race and tell us this is our problem. If you say 5 days, please have 5 days. If you cannot do 5 days, tell us. You know, one thing I like about IBB is he talks to us. He makes us feel, even though he's telling us a whole lot of whatever, but he talks to us. Let them talk to us, explain things to us. Talk to us not as if they are superior to us, because it's our money that is funding them. And then they talk to us and tell us, but sincerely, if you had 3 or 4 months to prepare for an election and you could not prepare for it, now, what will 5 days do? And secondly, somebody was saying that NAS did not give them money on time. Fine, NAS did not give them money on time. You as the chairman, when NAS gave you the money and it is 3 months to the thing, you will call your team and say, can we do this, or let us postpone it? Then you come out and say, NAS gave us money so late and this, but not now that the postponement is here, you're now blaming NAS. You don't blame NAS. You agree that you have election. It is your duty to see that these elections hold. Now the elections don't hold, and unfortunately in Nigeria, we don't have culture of resignation. So since there's no culture of resignation, what he should do is talk to us as human beings and explain things to us. But really, I don't see them having this election 23rd.
Oh, wow.
Would you like to add something to it? Because you just said, wow.
I'm not good with predicting these things, because as at last night, when INEC was still telling us that elections will hold today, they were so sincere about it. And at that point, they must have known that there were logistics problems. But as at early last night, they were still sticking to their guns that elections are going to hold. So I can't predict, but it will be very disappointing and very angering if the elections are postponed from 23rd again.
Some have said that, well, since they laid the blame on the distribution of some sensitive and non-sensitive materials, 5 days is a long while to do that. But in case if things continue to go down south, I know behind the scenes we talked about, if there was any likelihood that we would have an interim government.
I wouldn't talk about an interim government. If anything at all, just like now that they are postponing the elections, the government on seat would continue. If they further postpone it, or if any other thing comes up, we still have up to May 29th, so they can't possibly want to say
it's now June 12th, by the way.
Oh, yes. Are they handing over on June 12th? I don't think they are handing over.
It's the new democracy day.
Have they done the needful?
Yeah, constitutionally, you can't just decide to hand over June 12th.
Well, that's a whole kettle of fish.
Exactly, so I don't want to go into that. But then I don't see the provision for that interim government. You know, if INEC decides to postpone to maybe to March, end of March, or to even April, which I don't want to see. I don't even want to go and discuss such thing. But let's see. I'm very hopeful that 23rd is the day we'll have the presidential election.
Obi?
I feel that we need an election that everybody will beat their chest and say, this election brought out this man, it was fair and fair. They should stop all these games of rigging, all these games of carrying ballot boxes. They should stop all these games and know that 180 million Nigerians they are playing with their lives.
Do you think this, because the way you say it, it seems like it's very easy. You just snap a finger and then all of the drama that happens during elections to go away. I mean, even with this postponement, do you think that there will be any change whatsoever as to how we approach elections in this country?
No, what this postponement signals to me is a sign of desperation.
How so?
It means that maybe somebody somewhere is desperate, and so whatever they would do before, they will do it better now. But I cannot talk much about it. But that for me is one sign, and also it makes me, I don't have confidence in INEC doing a free and fair election, because 3 days before you were told, you said, you beat your hand on your chest and said, I am totally ready, but you were getting the intel. And then now, what even paid you was yesterday night, they were approached. They said, no, there's going to be elections. And then at 2:45, when people have cooked, people have prepared, money has gone out, and then now you're cancelling it. Who will pay all this for all these bills?
Nejeeb, I want to ask, and I asked a lot of guests today about how this would affect the morale of the average voter. The man who has to travel, the man who doesn't even have to travel, the man who made arrangements to have food in his storehouse because they don't have to. In fact, they bought what they didn't need.
Yes.
How does this affect the morale of those going, especially those who have not necessarily voted before?
Exactly.
And because of the way we drummed up the attention, people actually decided to come out. What does this do to their morale?
Yes, especially for the people that had to travel, because someone had to travel down, even though it was interstate, someone had to travel down to my place to wait for the elections. Those people, I don't think they will be so enthusiastic to do it again. There are people who traveled outside the state because INEC did not relocate their PVCs, so they had to travel outside the state. It's an expense that for some is quite huge. So I don't see them taking that same route of saying, oh, I want to travel again, especially since there are thoughts that the elections could also be postponed. Now, there are people who had things that they could have done this weekend. Businesses closed early yesterday so that their staff could go rest.
Millions of naira lost
Yes,
today.
so that their staff could go rest adequately and prepare for the elections. I don't see businesses closing at 1 p.m. next Friday and saying, oh, go and rest again so that you go, because nobody wants to keep wasting their resources. So I think some people, there's quite a number of people who will say, you know what, I'm not going to repeat this. But then there are still a lot of Nigerians who are determined. There are some people that even because of this postponement, there are people who said, oh, I was just going to relax in my house. They blame the government for the postponement. There are people like that, and they believe that, oh, if this is what you want to do, then I am going to vote. So there are a new crop of people who are registered to vote, who didn't want to vote before, but are saying that because of we smell a rat, then we are going to stand up and vote next week.
Now, it's just barely 7 minutes to 2 o'clock when INEC is expected to address the nation as a whole. Now, there were pictures that circulated of NYC corps members that had to sleep on the floor.
Yes.
The borders were shut. That affected business as well. INEC hasn't released the total number of PVCs collected and uncollected. We haven't yet had a full register done. And a whole lot more. And even its manner of communication. Do you think the INEC chairman today in his delivery will touch on all these areas? And if he does touch on all these areas, how do you think this would redeem the integrity or the image of INEC today to believe that February 23, people would hold them to their word?
First of all, we have a spirit in Nigeria which I call spirit of lack of accountability. We are not accountable for anything. We do anything and say anything because I don't know why that. So INEC, I don't think he would touch on those things. I don't think he will touch on those things. What I'm really worried about is money was budgeted for these people to be given an accommodation. How come our children who took time out, what do you tell them? Would they next election want to sacrifice their time to do that, to sleep on the floor? We have to think about the future of Nigeria. We have to think about the future generation. And when I was going around in my neighborhood canvassing people to go out and vote, there was a lot of apathy. If we vote, waiting a vote go do. We have to stop that. What we are doing, my own generation, I would agree, has been a failure to a certain extent. But for the new generation, we have to do something. How can you get children out of their base and put them there? And how are we sure they've eaten? It's wrong. And if INEC is not accountable, after the election, somebody should please do the nation a favor and sack him.
Nejeeb.
For when she talks about lack of accountability, the reason that there is so much of it in Nigeria is because there is no consequence. Who is going to get punished for this? Nobody. 2011 elections, there are NYSC members who were killed. Nobody made provisions for proper security. Who was punished? So lack of consequence, lack of punishment is what breeds this. And by now, in a civilized society, you'd expect NYSC. We gave out people to work for INEC, and look at how they've been treated. It's the NYSC that should have early this morning, after the pictures we saw last night, early this morning, the DG of the NYSC or someone up there would have come out to give a statement that we are very sorry for everything that's happening. We're going to make sure we take this up with INEC, and if by 23rd or 22nd, if they've not made adequate provisions for our core members, we are not going to release.
So then if he
people.
doesn't touch on all of these issues, what do you expect he would be saying today?
That's INEC.
Yes.
No, I was talking about NYSC,
okay.
but for INEC, I don't know what he's going to be discussing. Is he may be trying to outline the exact reason, because right now what we've heard is logistics. So maybe when he's having his meeting, he's going to be talking mostly with the candidates.
Okay.
He's going to be telling them, okay, these are exactly why we had to do this, and these are exactly why we had to do that. I'm not even sure he will touch on the NYSC situation. But then I expect NYSC themselves, it is their people. They handed these young people out for the election. So I feel they should be the one, if they care about the lives of the young people, the core members, because we're talking about people burning PVCs and destroying election materials. They could as well see these youth core members as targets in order to foil the elections. And there was no security. You saw the pictures, you saw some videos, there was no security, nothing that really said that these guys were INEC ad hoc staff. So there has to be a lot done for the 23rd,
What's the
22nd,
future
23rd.
of Nigeria with all of these postponements? It seems to become a trend of sorts. What should we be hoping for? Should we be more optimistic, even in the face of all of these doubts and, lapses here and there? Should we be more hopeful than, pessimistic?
Me? I've always told you people that I'm so positive about the future of Nigeria. America took 200 and something years to get to the level of democracy. We are getting to ours, but the only problem is every time we don't learn from the mistakes of the past. If only we could sit down and after every election, x-ray it and say this is where we got it wrong, next time we'll not do it. But I'm still so optimistic. I know that this election will come and go and there will not be problems.
Okay.
One step forward, 5 steps back.
Well,
Nejeeb.
Still optimism, but then this is going to be the third time or fourth time of postponement. I think Nigerians, by next elections, Nigerians will just generally expect that elections will be postponed or something like that. So I believe we have a lot to do. When it comes to, after these elections, the Senate have to call INEC in to explain a whole lot of things. There's a lot they need to explain. Even before this election was postponed, we had said it that INEC has to explain some things to the Senate.
Okay. Well, optimism is all that we can hold on to with so much faith and hope.
A few more seconds to that broadcast. I'm actually eager to hear what the INEC chairman would have to say. Then we can build our conversation much more forward around that.
Yeah. Well, we have to go now. Thank you very much, Nejeeb Bello, for being here, and also Ajegbo. Thank you very much for speaking with us. Come with another crystal ball, but we want it to be positive this time. All right, we'll take that break now, and soon we'll be joining the INEC headquarters to bring you a live broadcast of that press briefing. Stay with us.